The thing about AI for business, it may not automatically fit the way your business works. At IBM, we've seen this firsthand. But by embedding AI across HR, IT, and procurement processes, we've reduced costs by millions, slashed repetitive tasks, and freed thousands of hours for strategic work. Now we're helping companies get smarter by putting AI where it actually pays off, deep in the work that moves the business. Let's create smarter business. IBM.
From coast to coast, unlock adventure at Red Lion Hotels by Sonesta, where restful sleep, friendly service, and local knowledge await. Whether for business or pleasure, spend less and make more of every trip. When you sign up for Sonesta Travel Pass, you'll get their best rates instantly. Go to Sonesta.com to book your stay and unlock their best rates with Sonesta Travel Pass. Here today, roam tomorrow. Join now at Sonesta.com. Terms and conditions apply.
If you follow markets, you know the value of long-term thinking. You plan, you diversify, you prepare for volatility. But in life, even the best strategies can't prevent every bad day. A fire, a loss, a disruption that demands immediate attention. When that happens, what matters isn't just what you planned, it's who shows up. That's where Cincinnati Insurance comes in. For more than 75 years, they've helped individuals and businesses navigate life's toughest moments with care, expertise, and personal attention. Together with independent agents, Cincinnati Insurance focuses on relationships, not transactions. Their approach is grounded in experience, follow-through, and trust built over time. Bad days happen, and when they do, you deserve an insurance partner who understands risk, respects what you've built, and is ready to help you move forward. The Cincinnati Insurance Companies. Let them make your bad day better. Find an independent agent at CINFIN.com.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
A quick note. This is the 4th episode of our series. If you missed the first 3, we recommend going back and listening in order. Thanks. Who are we here to talk about?
Yanjun.
Jordan and I are in Cincinnati, across the table from FBI Special Agent Bradley Hall. You've been hearing Bradley talk about Shu over the last couple episodes, but now you're going to hear from him in a different way. You're going to hear about his own involvement in this case, which begins when GE engineer David Jun comes back from his trip to China, the trip where he met Shu Yanjun.
When we sat down with Bradley, we already knew how David had gotten on Shu's radar, LinkedIn. But that didn't explain how David had gotten on the FBI's radar, or for that matter, how Shu did. And that was something we really wanted to know. So how does this case begin for you?
So when you guys flew here, I imagine you had digital tickets, right?
Right.
If you buy a ticket last minute, or you buy it in cash, or there's a number of different traits, the airlines are required to report that to TSA. And if you ever get a ticket and it has 4 S's on it, it means you've hit 2 or 3 of those criteria, which usually means someone's going to give you a secondary search. Well, when the GE engineer returned to the United States from his trip to China, he had these codes on his ticket. He was offered a secondary inspection.
At which point they found cash on David Jun. A lot of cash. $16,000.
That was not well explained. And that's a starting point for this case.
And so, did Zhang buy his ticket with cash or last minute, or was there something else that led to him being secondaried? Is there anything we can say about that?
I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Can we talk any more about the secondary? It seems like even if you had maybe known something before, is that kind of the first moment we can talk about in his case?
I don't know if I can get any more detail than that.
Okay. So he was secondaried. He did have this cash, right? It sounds like this was the moment that kind of led to everything else that we then have. Is that roughly correct?
No, let's just leave it at that for now, I think.
Okay. So Bradley was not going to tell us where this case started. And as much as we tried, we could never get anyone to tell us where this case started. We do know there were a bunch of hacks the FBI traced to the 6th Bureau years before, which allowed them to see some of Shu's colleagues' correspondence with each other. We also know that cases like this one can start with the NSA flagging some email address or text or geotag or really any sort of digital footprint we're leaving behind all the time. And so we think it's likely that at least one of Shu's email addresses was flagged before he started talking with David Jun. So when he did, the FBI noticed, got David secondaried at the airport, and found the cache.
And when the lead about Shu and David came in, it landed on Bradley Hall's desk. Because David Jun worked at GE Aviation, which was headquartered in Cincinnati. And Bradley was the FBI's only counterintelligence agent there.
We are spy hunters. We spy on the spies. We track the people whose job it is to not be recognized, to not be identified, to blend in. A drug dealer sells drugs, right? That's ipso facto illegal. It's very black and white. Counterintelligence exists in the gray. These are people who are trained to blend in, who are trained to do things that look normal. So to find that piece of illegality is very, very difficult.
Bradley is an intense guy. I mean, we talked to him for almost 6 hours. We ate lunch, he didn't. We drank coffee, he didn't. We sipped from our bottles of water, he basically didn't.
Can I take some water?
No, I'm fine.
He's worked counterintelligence for his entire FBI career, and he chose it because someone told him it was the most challenging thing the Bureau does.
If you have a GS-15 ASAC sitting in front of you saying the hardest thing that we do is counterintelligence, that piqued my interest.
But spy hunting isn't always as badass as it sounds. For instance, the first thing Bradley had to do after getting this lead was go to David Jun's employer and ask for their help.
We went to GE and said, we have a concern. We by no means have a full picture, but we would like you to work with us.
The Bureau came in and said, you guys have a problem?
This is Art Cummings, who at the time was chief security officer for all of GE's businesses.
This is your problem, but this is the opportunity.
The opportunity to work together.
To potentially expose this intelligence officer whose job is to steal IP from American companies. That's just a beautiful operation.
Beautiful for the FBI, but not necessarily for GE.
A lot of companies would have said, thank you very much. What's the person's name? Fired them and walked away from it.
Because the proposal raised serious risks. Helping an investigation that might lead to a trial would only draw attention to the fact that GE had had a security breach, which is a bad look when one of the major buyers of your jet engines is the U.S. military.
I'm like, guys, are you prepared to expose this to DOD that you have billions of dollars of business with that shows that you were sloppy with their IP or with your IP? Buddy, that is a bad message all the way across the board.
Plus, GE does a lot of business in China. Working with the FBI on a case that accused China of stealing trade secrets could jeopardize that business. But not working with the FBI came with its own risks. The fact that the MSS was targeting David Jun meant they were after some of GE's most sensitive information.
He was one of about 10 to 12 engineers who worked specifically on carbon fan blades and carbon fan blade encasements on the GE engine system series.
That's a very small group of people working on a very important technology.
Yes, GE is the only company in the world that has ever commercialized this technique. Many have tried and failed, but GE is the only one. They are the crown jewel of jet engines.
I'd say the loss of their most advanced commercial jet engine is $1 billion if they lost it. And there's future revenue. And then there's just that generation. The next generation jet engine builds on that one. And then the next one on that one. And then the next one on that one. That's real.
Art isn't at GE anymore. We tried repeatedly to talk to the company for the story, but they declined to comment each time.
Ultimately, GE did decide to cooperate with the FBI.
There were enough people, particularly in the C-suite, who were open to the idea of, okay, let's work with the FBI and see what we can do to protect ourselves.
So GE was in, but Bradley still had to convince one more person to get on board, David Jun.
Oh, I wanted to turn him, to use him to operate against the MSS.
Bradley wanted to make David his double.
A double is someone who represents himself or herself as cooperating with the Foreign Intelligence Service, but actually under the control of our service. And it is a very delicate kind of operation. because you have to persuade professional counterintelligence people on the other side that this is legitimate.
As a double agent, David would help the FBI try to learn the details of who this MSS officer actually was, and maybe even help catch him. And it was a good moment to try. In 2017, Donald Trump had just taken office for the first time, and his administration was gung-ho about going after China. So there was support at the highest levels of government for nabbing an MSS officer. But actually pulling it off would be a real Hail Mary, because it had literally never happened before.
There was a lot of, do you really think this is going to work?
And your response was?
I'm positive it's going to work.
From Bloomberg News and iHeart Podcasts, this is The Sixth Bureau. I'm Jordan Robertson.
And I'm Drake Bennett.
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you're drowning in software instead of growing your business. This is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything. CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload. No more juggling logins. Just one seamless system that makes work easier. And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you are just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process, so you can focus on what really matters, running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch, so why not you? Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The news doesn't stop on the weekends.
Context changes constantly. And now Bloomberg is the place to stay on top of it all.
Hi, I'm David Gura. Join us every Saturday and Sunday for the new Bloomberg This Weekend.
I'm Christina Ruffini. We'll bring you the latest headlines, in-depth analysis, and big interviews. All the stories that hit home on your days off.
And I'm Lisa Mateo. Watch and listen to Bloomberg This Weekend for thoughtful, enlightening conversations about business, lifestyle, people, and culture.
On Saturday mornings, we put the past week's events into context, examining what happened in the markets and the world.
Then on Sundays, we speak with journalists, columnists, and key political figures to prepare you for the week ahead.
Join us as soon as you wake up and bring us with you wherever your weekend plans take you.
Watch us on Bloomberg Television, listen on Bloomberg Radio, stream the show live on the Bloomberg Business app, or listen to the podcast.
That's Bloomberg This Weekend, Saturdays and Sundays starting at 7 a.m. Eastern.
Make us part of your weekend routine on Bloomberg Television, radio, and wherever you get your podcasts.
On November 1st, 2017, David Jun started his day like any other day. He woke up, he drove to work, and then, a few hours later, he was called into a meeting by GE Corporate Security.
The engineer doesn't know exactly how much hot water he's in.
This is Mike Riegel, an agent who was pulled in to work with Bradley on the case.
He had like an interaction with, GE security people. That was more like a general type discussion, kind of an opener.
GE Security asked David about some unusual activity they'd noticed, specifically the 5 sensitive files he'd transferred onto his personal computer before going to China.
They literally walk out, they say, someone else wants to speak to you.
And then we come in. I'm sure his stress level went up 100-fold because obviously the guy's kind of in shock. He comes for kind of like a meeting with security guys, and 2 FBI people come walking in.
It was a room meant for 60, 70 people, and we're sat at one tiny little corner of a table. We indicate that we are there for the same reason that GE was there. These files were moved. We've learned from GE that they went to China. That's a concern for us. Let's talk about it. And that's how the conversation starts.
You know, you could have somebody that just unburdens himself and says, I know what you guys are here about.
He didn't do that.
No.
They start by asking David about his trip to China, why he went, what he did, who he saw.
You have to kind of eat this steak in small bites.
David gives them a partial story.
He went to a wedding. He went to a class reunion. He visited family back in the provinces, and then he flew home.
He leaves out one thing, his talk in Nanjing at the university. So Bradley and Mike remind him.
We started talking about the fact that he had done a presentation without talking to GE.
His brain is thinking, let me think of a way to get out of this. Can I think of a way to get out of this? Okay, let me give a different version of that. I gave a talk, but it's not on important stuff.
But Bradley and Mike already know exactly what GE files David took with him to China.
Here's the file that you downloaded on March the 27th, and here's the image that has GE proprietary on it that you cropped out when you put in your PowerPoint.
Oops, they know about that. They've got that PowerPoint.
There was a lot of I forgot to mentions.
Then they ask him about all the cash he came back with. He lies about the amount and says it was repayment for a loan.
I call it progressive truth-telling. I let them tell the lie, and then I go back and I counter it, point by point. I had the bank records that showed where he'd put the $16,000 in cash. I'm going to show you 10 ways past Sunday that I know what day you put the money in, what your account went to. Like, don't play, right? Just, I know.
So he's changing over time to the point where he emotionally just can't do it anymore.
Like, you could watch the realization wash over him that, oh, this is more than just I downloaded some files I shouldn't have. This is now something else.
The questions keep coming, and there doesn't seem to be any escape. When David gets hungry, Bradley and Mike eat with him. When he has to go to the bathroom, they go with him. The walls were closing in.
It's a voluntary interview. And he needs to know during a voluntary interview that it's very important that he can leave.
But wasn't his car being towed and like...
He couldn't drive away.
Well, so there's, being free to leave and having some logistical issues are two different things, right?
The logistical issues Mike is referring to look something like this. While the FBI is talking to David, his phone is confiscated, his car is seized from the GE parking lot, and his house is searched. Bradley hands him a phone so he can call his wife. They tell him to put her on speaker and to speak in English. David tells her not to go home.
Because the FBI had just kicked in their back door.
It's a short call. He hangs up, and the questioning continues.
So this goes on for a long time, to the point that I remember him breaking down.
There's like a slumping of the shoulders. There's, an audible exhale where they go from that person who thinks they're walking out of the room that day to someone who realizes that their life has fundamentally changed. We go from, the proper engineer who sits up with his hands on the table. We start getting the lean back for the lies. And then by the end, he's slumped down in the chair right before he actually, starts to tear up. Like he started crying.
And finally, telling the whole story.
He gives us as much as he could remember.
David acknowledges that he knew something was fishy about the cash he was handed after his talk.
He eventually called it dark money, that he had known he had received dark money from someone in China. So deep down, maybe not as he was initially given the presentation, but after the fact, that realization was there that he knew that it was dark money. He maybe not have known it was the MSS specifically, but at this point, you'd be hard-pressed to be ignorant to that type of thing happening.
And yet, Bradley and Mike couldn't help but empathize a little. Why being invited to share his expertise at this prestigious university in the country where he grew up was so appealing to David.
He came from a very rural village. He literally was the son of a pig farmer. Like, he grew up on dirt floors. He was the first person, not only in his family, but from his village to go to college. He was one of about 10 to 12 engineers who worked specifically on carbon fan blades and carbon fan blade encasements. And frankly, this was a chance for him to brag about it. I know the secret sauce. I'm one of very few people who can do it. So there was an ego part to it, right?
And I understand that. I understand that motivation that this guy basically is like, I'm proud of my work. I like what I do. I'm excited about this. The MSS preyed on people that want to talk about what they do because they're proud of it. They're excited about it. They find it interesting. It's like, hey, we'd really like to hear about this. This sounds like great stuff. Would you like to come give a talk about this? Is that ego? Yes, I guess it kind of is, but it's
human.
Yeah.
David was suspended without pay and eventually let go. But unemployment wasn't the worst thing he was facing. He could see possible prison time for violating export control laws and for lying to federal agents. Or he could cooperate.
You say, okay, there is a path forward. And you start to talk very gently about what that path can look like. And that hopefully, at the end, will improve their position, vice where it is right now, which is pretty bad. We couched it like this. You did wrong. You know you did wrong. You lied to me. You kept lying to me. You finally told me the truth. But you didn't set off to do this. They came to you. So how about we go get them?
They told him to sleep on it. It had been a long day, a really long day.
I was exhausted. The interview was hours. I can't remember the exact number. For some reason, 7 sticks in my brain, but it's hours long.
7 hours and 42 minutes.
When it was done, Bradley and Mike drove David home because he had no car or phone.
What was that ride like?
Quiet.
You're hearing only from Bradley and Mike here because, as we said in the last episode, we tried really hard to talk to David Jun, but he wouldn't talk to us. We didn't get to hear from him directly what that day and night was like for him and how he went about weighing his options.
Agreeing to be a double would be a huge risk for David. He'd be going up against the powerful intelligence apparatus of China, the country where he was born and raised, and still had family. He had good reason to say no. But it was that, or those potential charges, and prison time. So he agreed to cooperate. The next day, he got a lawyer and signed a non-prosecution agreement saying that no charges would be brought against him in return for working with the FBI. It was time to go spy hunting.
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you're drowning in software instead of growing your business. This is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything. CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload. No more juggling logins. Just one seamless system that makes work easier. And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you are just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process, so you can focus on what really matters, running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch, so why not you? Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can get the news whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris.
And I'm Karen Moscow, here to tell you about our new on-demand news report delivered right to your podcast feed. Bloomberg News Now is a short 5-minute audio report on the day's top stories. Episodes are published throughout the day with the latest information and data to keep you informed.
Yes, there are other products like this from a variety of news organizations, but they usually rerun their radio newscasts throughout the day. That's not what we do. We create customized episodes that that can only be heard on Bloomberg News Now.
And we don't wait an hour to publish breaking news. When news breaks, we'll have an episode up in your podcast feed within minutes, so you're always getting the latest stories and developments.
Get the reporting and the context from Bloomberg's 3,000 journalists and analysts who are all over the world. Listen to the latest from Bloomberg News Now on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen.
With David on board, the FBI made their first move. Under Bradley's direction, David got back in touch with his contacts in Yanjun. But he couldn't come on too strong.
You can't, get on there and say, I've got a big laptop and it's ready to go. And guess what? I want $5 million and I want it in an offshore account. And here's the number. Right. He's immediately going to say, right. This is not for real. This is one of those FBI dorks, right?
Right. So they crafted a different kind of message to the person from NUAA who had first invited David to come give a talk, Chen Feng.
Teacher Chen, I plan to go visit my elderly parents around the new year after wrapping up a big project because they aren't in the best health. After all, I likely won't have much time left with them. I feel like I need to fulfill my familial obligations. It would be great to gather with old friends by then as well.
Offering to visit the university during Chinese New Year was an empty offer.
Chinese New Year is the single largest mass migration of people in the world on an annual basis. Everyone goes home to their own province or village or farm, etc., wherever they came from. Which also means I can guarantee no one's going to be there for that period of time that we say that we're going. Because guess who's not going to be in school for Chinese New Year? Chen Feng or anyone else at NUAA.
And it worked.
Your trip back this time coincides with school holiday. Most teachers and the students will pretty much be back to their hometowns.
Bradley was banking on the fact that with the campus empty for vacation, Chen Feng would pass off the hosting duties to someone else, someone who didn't actually have a university job. And Bradley was hoping it would be the important-seeming official David had met on his trip, the man who had introduced himself as Chu Hui. Bradley suspected he was actually an MSS officer.
I discussed with Section Chief Chu, who will organize your exchange this time around.
Bingo.
I'll use this analogy. If it quacks and has webbed feet, you think it's a duck. We had feet and quacking at that point.
Even though Bradley suspected Chu Hui was his guy, he still didn't have his real name and title. But Bradley was right about him being MSS, because of course, Chu Hui was actually Xu Yanjun.
I knew what he was without knowing what he was, if that makes sense.
But he was about to, because Xu Yanjun had made a key mistake. Before David came to China, Xu had sent him an email pretending to be Chen Feng, and he had sent that email from a Gmail address, which meant the FBI could send search warrants to Google's parent company, Alphabet. Those warrant results revealed that the Gmail address was linked to an Apple iCloud account, so the FBI sent warrants to Apple too. And with those results, Bradley came into some feathers in a bill, in the form of one boring-looking government document.
When I first saw it, I wasn't sure what it was because it was in Mandarin, but I saw a face in a military uniform, which makes it government. So we had a linguist, he translated it, he called me back, kind of in a bit of a flutter. Do you know what this is? I said, well, I don't know what it is, I'm going to guess. He said, it's better than what you're going to guess. It's the MSS officer's life, from when he started college to when he joined the Communist Party to when he joined the Ministry for State Security, and then every major progression in his career after that fact.
It was an MSS cadre form, or basically Xu Yanjun's resume.
So I started sending communications back to FBI headquarters saying known intelligence officer. And I got a little bit of a snarky call from a fairly high-level analytical person at headquarters saying, well, why are you calling this individual known intelligence officer? Like, that's the highest level we can get. We are positive this person is an intelligence officer. Because I had his spy CV in front of me. And when I said that to them, there was like a pause on the call. And they went, you have what? And it's not that it was confusion. Like, we know these things must exist, right? It's the first time we'd ever seen it. That was the thing that took a case that was going fast and made it go light speed.
And why?
I have to be able to prove he's an intelligence officer. This was definitive proof. Again, apologies for the duck reference. We know it's a duck.
Let's just take a moment here to reflect on the sloppiness of a Chinese spy relying on American tech companies, Apple, Google, to conduct his top secret work. I mean, it's pretty wild.
We can throw shade at that as well, right? Okay, he was using the most popular cell phone in the world at the time. Shocking. Did he read the 45,000 pages that you have to sign on when you get an Apple product? He didn't, because he would have, if he'd have read, paragraph 45, subsection 422, maybe he would have realized that, right?
And Xu left all sorts of digital breadcrumbs. When you use your iPhone to take a photo, it captures GPS data. So the FBI was able to determine Xu's exact location at the moment he snapped the photo of his cadre form that ended up in his iCloud account. He was in Nanjing, in the regional headquarters of the MSS. So, not the best tradecraft.
I now have several terabytes of an MSS officer, no doubt, no question, of his life. And that's a unicorn.
The warrant results kept coming back. There were emails and other sensitive documents. And there was the diary, that portal to Xu's life and habits and feelings.
Played cards, lost 700, 10/20th, noon, peach, June 22nd, flew to Paris. I lost so much in the stock market. John undermined me. Having a leader like this, what's the point?
And that was something Bradley could use. He began to build a sort of psychological profile of who Xu was and what he would respond to. And that became a guide for how David communicated with Xu and how they tried to get him to do what they wanted.
I now knew where all his little buttons were. When you're trying very subtly to craft a message that looks and appears and feels real to them, to know that level of detail about their life and their mindset, it allows you to tweak what you put in the message on a daily basis so that we could keep him talking to our cooperator and keep the case moving forward so that we could get to the ultimate end goal.
Because Bradley wasn't just trying to talk to Xu. For his plan to work, Bradley needed to convince Xu to do things he wouldn't normally do, like let David choose where they would meet next, which wasn't going to be Nanjing.
Obviously, we're not going to allow the engineer to go back to China. Okay, that's, non-starter, right?
And why not?
Because China is territory that we cannot control. Obviously,
You couldn't go with him.
And we're certainly not going to allow him to go by himself.
So while David and Xu are messaging back and forth, Xu is still under the impression that David is coming back to China for Chinese New Year, like he had said. But he's not going to China, for all the reasons Mike just said. So they had to break the news that if they were going to meet, it would have to be somewhere else.
But Bradley knew that was potentially a deal breaker. Xu would be disappointed and might just walk away. So they had to be strategic about it. Because of the diary, Bradley knew all about Xu's work resentments and the way he felt about his own superiors.
March 27th, John rejected meal receipt today. Such an ungrateful person. Has no shame. I will have my revenge.
So they used that.
Hello, Session Chief Xu. I have unfortunate news to tell you. I can't go back for the new year. The boss today requested material for my work trip to France.
The big bad boss.
There are lots to be done, and he thinks it's inappropriate for a 2 weeks vacation right now. I'm very sorry about this.
I can't go to China now because my boss says I have to go work on this specific project.
In France. Bradley was hoping that blaming this work trip on the boss was something Xu would understand and sympathize with. But he knew that wasn't enough on its own. He had taken something away, David's trip to China. So now he had to give something in return, something to keep Xu in the game.
I'm very sorry that I can't come back to China for the new year and meet with you guys. I'll email you a directory of documents from a company computer per your previous instruction. Please check.
A directory is basically a list of all the files on your computer.
And if you don't know any engineers, you've never worked with an engineer, they name them very specifically, and a lot of details contained within the titles of those files. It's because there's so many files, and each is so specific to a piece of technology they're working on, etc., that you can glean a lot of information.
From your point of view, how big of a deal was a directory?
Oh, it's huge.
GE gave Bradley a directory, but altered it to remove anything proprietary. David sent it to Shu, and it worked.
I'm sure he is saying to his bosses, it's working, it's working. He sent me this file. He created this directory for me. Almost no one ever does that, right? It's good, it's gold, we've got to work it hard.
He starts peppering David with questions about his upcoming work trip.
How long will you be in France in March? Do you have plans to visit any other countries? I'm planning this year's foreign travel and would love to see you overseas if it's convenient. The US isn't in my plan, so I'd like to see you in other countries.
We would love for Zhu to basically say, I'll come to Cincinnati, Ohio. Sounds like a great town, right? He's not going to do that. So we have to find something that's intermediate, that's risky, but not as big a risk, right?
David and Shu start discussing European cities in France and elsewhere. But as Shu gets closer to leaving China for the meeting, he seems to need more reassurance about his source. WeChats aren't enough anymore. He wants to hear David's voice. He calls him, but David's not with Bradley and Mike. He's home with his family. So David doesn't answer.
Hello, Section Chief Chu. Sorry I missed your call. I was trying to put my child to sleep. Just got free.
Shu responds.
Do you have a minute? Let's talk on the phone.
How about another day? My family is sleeping.
Shu presses him.
Or how about tomorrow? There's something I'd like to check in with you about if we meet in France.
The next morning, David messages Shu that he can talk at 11 a.m. He meets up with Bradley and Mike. They decide to do the call from Bradley's car in the FBI parking lot. But David pretends he's in his car in the GE parking lot on his lunch break.
This is Special Agent Regal, Special Agent Bradley Hall. The date is February 28th.
This call is a tricky thing for the FBI agents to pull off.
About to start consensual telephone call.
They need to choreograph it in real time without tipping Shu off that they're there. So Bradley gives David specific instructions.
So I just said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a pad of paper. I need you to write down as fast as you can what he's saying.
Wait.
Over here, I'm going to point to what you say.
Hey.
And we're going to go as quick as we can. If it's something important, you need to give me a signal so that I know, because we need to keep this a natural flow. I said it needs to be natural.
As you listen, you wouldn't know all of this is going on in the background. David sounds so normal. At no point does he let on that he's doing all this writing and signaling and adapting on the fly. It's really impressive.
I do want to visit Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. I would like to go check it out.
David suggests a few countries in Europe where he and Shu could meet, places he says he's always wanted to visit.
If it works well for you, I can tell my colleagues I'm visiting those places for fun. I assume they won't come along. I think those places may be more convenient.
So you are saying it's better to meet in Belgium, Netherlands, or Germany, right?
Right.
That works too. All right, let's try our best to meet in Europe.
Good.
If I need to communicate any details to you, I will send them to you through WeChat.
Okay, good night.
Okay, goodbye, good night.
Goodbye. Good night, Section Chief Chu.
Shu has agreed to leave his home turf and meet David in Europe. Somewhere in Europe. He believes that David is just a willing source at GE, ready to hand over whatever he needs. And so Shu is willing to do whatever he needs to get the goods. In this moment, that means he's willing to travel. This is a big win for the FBI.
That's a huge step. That's definitely kind of like, yeah, this is amazing.
And I could just feel Shu's excitement.
Here's James Olson, former chief of counterintelligence at the CIA.
This is going to be the recruitment that is going to set him aside from all of his peers. This is big. This is a very big thing.
There's this kind of dynamic where the MSS senior management is following this very closely. The FBI senior management is following this very closely. Like, when this meeting is taking shape, there would have been an enormous amount of excitement in both places.
Absolutely.
About the potential of this.
Absolutely. They both are very close to a major intelligence coup. You're going head-to-head with some very smart people on both ends, and each side has to be smarter than the other. I could just see the jubilation with the FBI that he's coming our way.
On the next episode,
it's not just like a couple of dudes in suits. I mean, these are some legit looking, like SEAL Team 6 looking type dudes.
So I'm bringing him into a fatal funnel, into a fatal funnel, into a fatal funnel.
This whole investigation seemed like it was out of a movie. Of course, there was going to be an escape plan.
He's serving his country. I serve my country. He's a spy. I was a spy. He lived undercover. I lived undercover. He's doing what he's believing is right. I did what I believed was right. How are we any different?
Sonesta Travel Pass is the most rewarding way to travel. Sign up at Sonesta.com for instant savings, bonus points, and perks like early check-in, late check-out, room upgrades, and free stays. Choose from 1,100 hotels across 13 brands and unlock their best rates when you book with Sonesta Travel Pass. Here today, roam tomorrow. Join now at Sonesta.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Tom Keene, inviting you to join us for the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. It's about making you smarter every business day.
I'm Paul Sweeney. We bring you complete coverage of the U.S. market open. We cover stocks, bonds, commodities, even crypto. All the information you need to excel.
And I'm Alexis Christoforous. Bloomberg Surveillance also brings you the analysis behind the headlines. We do that through conversations with the smartest names in economics, finance, investment, and international relations.
We do all this live each and every weekday, then bring you the best analysis in our daily podcast. Search for Bloomberg Surveillance on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you listen.
On the East Coast, listen at lunch. And on the West Coast, listen as soon as you wake up.
That's the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast with Tom Keene, Paul Sweeney, and me, Alexis Christoforous. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts.
Bloomberg Surveillance, essential listening each and every business day.